All right, hello and welcome to Northern Souls Podcast. I'm your host Zeke, and I am joined today by Fratello Dan with Stars and Wands. Dan, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, yeah, I'm Fratello Dan. I'm a astrologer. I'm a magician. Well, that's sort of the two things that I do here and offer at starsandwands.com or my various like Facebook and YouTube. Um, so you can book me whenever you like for astrology or for some magical services. Yes, so that's me.
All right, so without out of the way, this podcast normally centers around spirituality, religion, astrology, and psycho spirituality, but I think today we want to do a heavy focus on astrology because we found out something pretty cool, and it has to do with astrolocality, which is a service I purchased from you like back in January. And
Yeah,
there was
half a
just
year ago or
something
so.
that I discovered when I was looking over the maps that you gave for me and my family. So if you want to go ahead and just talk a little bit about what it is.
Well, essentially, you see lines on a world map, or if you zoom in closer on just a country, the map, you can see certain lines of where the planets were at the time of birth. So you're looking at the natal chart here, what it looks like on the map, essentially. You got these lines where obviously you got like the Sun line, the Jupiter line, the Saturn, etc., and so forth. You got descending and ascending lines. So essentially, with astrolocality, you can therefore then just look where a good place would be to live or a bad place to live. And there are different factors you have in there. So obviously, if it's like for the moon, you would look at some kind of like emotional stability, like feeling at home, these kinds of things. If you're looking to push your own career, um, yeah, you would go for something where the midheaven is, or the sun, for example, something along those lines. And what's really convinced me was actually one story is about Arnold Schwarzenegger. That guy was fitness instructor in Austria and well respected in Austria, but he moved exactly to his sun line, like I don't know, like a mile away or something like that. And with that, his career just skyrocketed, and from that point on, he became who we know him as today.
Oh yeah. Yeah, well, cool, man. Yeah, and that's kind of what sold me on getting that from you. Plus, my wife and I wanted to move, but we didn't know where. Um, because we just feel like we needed to change, but it's like, but where is that place? So, anyways, yeah, you gave us a map. It had a whole bunch of lines. There was a lot to consider. And as we're still in the middle of a lease, we can't exactly move just yet, but we're still planning. And the other day, I was re-looking at some of the lines because obviously one of the things we're considering is where's a place that'd be good for us, but also has a lower cost of living, because that's
Exactly.
more important in this economy, of course.
Yeah, nowadays.
Yeah, like it really
Definitely.
matters. Anyways, and then I started noticing something fascinating. Uh, and I'm gonna go ahead and just share my screen, just so one, everybody gets an idea of what a map might look like, and then
Yes.
two, just so I can talk without everybody having to figure it out in their heads. Um,
Okay. Sure.
okay, yeah. So this is the east coast of the U.S. Red lines are good. Red lines are, or purple lines are quote unquote bad. And the one thing that I notice is these three specific lines here going through Indiana, Michigan, and Ohio, and then over here going through Massachusetts. Now, one thing that's fascinating to me is I'm one of the Americans who's been here for a very long time, almost Well, some of my ancestors have been here for over 400 years. I have
Okay.
ancestors who came over here on the Mayflower.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yep, yeah, like
Wow.
11 signers of the Mayflower Compact. I'm a direct descendant of. Um, but anyways, and then a lot of other ones were Quakers who came over, uh, before America was America in the Revolutionary War, and most of them ended up initially in Massachusetts and then later went to Pennsylvania.
Hmm.
Anyways, you'll look at this line, and wouldn't you know it, it goes right through Massachusetts, and this area specifically is where a lot of them landed. And this is the line where my Venus would be right on the ascendant. And I think in the analysis, you said that'd be a place where I'd be really good at making money, or like
Yes.
money would I would just attract money.
Hmm.
Yeah, and like that's just kind of funny to me because all those people basically had to figure it out, you know,
Yeah, exactly.
and they did. So that was just really cool for me. And then moving on to over here, this mostly applies to my mother's side of the family.
Hmm.
But before people really started moving further west, I have a lot of ancestors born in Indiana,
Hmm.
in Ohio, and then some in Kentucky as well. In fact, my great grandfather on my mother's side was born right here,
Okay.
and then his father was born right here. And then,
Okay, that's crazy.
his
That
parents were
really is
born
crazy.
right here. Like you can't make it up. And then here, I'll pull up one of my daughter's charts. It also goes right through
Straight
here
through there. Yeah,
too. Yeah,
exactly.
and I was just like, oh my God. Oh my God. Like my brain was just on fire when I put that together. And here's my youngest. It also goes right through
Yeah,
here.
it goes straight to there. Yeah.
Yeah. So um then
Yeah.
the other thing I noticed is I have this line going right through here,
Hmm.
and this tends to be more important to my paternal line because my great grandfather, my father's father's father, was born right on this line, right here in Pennsylvania.
That really is crazy. Yes.
Yeah, and then I'm going to show you else something interesting. So he moved all over the country. He was an engineer, and he mostly worked on dams. Like he lived in Panama Canal when he was a teenager,
Okay.
because his father was an engineer, and he, along with one of his brothers, was the first one to swim the length of the Panama Canal, or at least that's how the family
Really?
story goes. And then in the Pacific Northwest, he helped build a big dam right up here.
Hmm.
But primarily where he lived is right here.
Yeah, you really can't make this up.
And this is where he died. Well, he died in a tragic accident when he was traveling for work,
Hmm.
which was over roughly around here. But like he's buried right here in Portland, Oregon.
Hmm.
And my great grandmother, his wife, she outlived him for another like 20 years or so. But even then, she's still buried right in the same uh grave. Lived in just north of it, right
Yeah,
here.
you know what's crazy? Sort of like on the lines here, you're supposed to always go on the west side, so to speak, of these lines. And
Yeah.
now you can sort of like you said that he had a tragic accident, sort of like on the east. You can see that sort of like this east of this line is not for you, so to speak.
Yeah. Well,
You know what I mean? Yeah.
let me show you my oldest daughter's. See, she also has a line really close to right there.
Hmm.
And then yeah, we have the purple line right here. But
Yeah.
what's also more relevant is it goes right here down to just east of Los Angeles. And if you look on a map, that goes through Bakersfield, California.
Okay.
That's actually where my maternal grandfather was born. And he just had a really tragic childhood.
Hmm.
Um, like his parents got divorced, and he was passed around from foster home to foster home. Like it was really, really
Okay.
hard childhood. And then even then, his maternal grandmother, who looked after him a lot, she died around here, but she had a really hard life. She was born over on the East Coast, and was orphaned at a very young age,
Hmm.
and had to work as a child for family members as a seamstress, and only came over to the West Coast um, to work. She actually worked for Hollywood as a seamstress, which is
Okay.
cool, but it's still, there's just a lot of heartache that you can't walk away from.
Well, it's Hollywood.
Yeah, especially with some of the more recent revelations. We don't need to go into too much detail
Exactly.
about that one, I think. So, yeah, like the more and more I looked at it, the more and more crazy it was getting. Um,
Hmm.
Let me see if there's anything else I want to bring up. Okay, yeah. So right here is Montana. Montana is an
Hmm.
important state for me because my second great grandfather, who was a doctor, who was a really great man, would perform medical services frequently for free, and he didn't tell
Hmm.
anybody about it. And it was only revealed after he died, and they looked at
Okay.
his books, and frequently he would write down something along the lines of a good case for charity, and just wouldn't take people's money because that's the other thing
Wow.
is Montana is still a very poor state in a lot of places, and there's still lots of people there who are like live well below the poverty line, and that was
Okay.
especially the case 100 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and he lived closer to over here in Montana, but he also came over with one of his brothers.
Hmm.
And they were still over here. But I will say I did really love living in Montana, and I didn't know about um, that ancestor of mine for a while. But if you look at my youngest daughter's chart, this is a lot closer to where he lived.
Hmm.
You know,
Okay. Yeah.
like it's just crazy. I think it was probably a little closer to right here, but still. And then it's the same thing. My older daughters, I think that's like right on there.
Well, that exact same spot would be the perfect place for me to live, actually, to astrolocality.
Yeah, like I
Yeah.
just saw this and I was just like, what the? Anyways, and then,
However, I've seen
well,
that town that sits there, I'm not sure what it's called again, has adopted the LGBTQ flag as its town flag in order to display it because Trump outlawed it, displaying it on, yeah,
oh,
uh,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
well, there you
I
go.
thought, come on, the perfect place for me is, well, a little bit out there.
Yeah. Um, but even then, on a more, to touch on some of the more negative stuff, I do have some ancestors who either went through a lot of hardship or just objectively speaking weren't the best people. And yeah, we have Pluto on the descendant. Um, I know for a fact one of them was born right here.
Okay.
And he necessarily wasn't a bad person, but his father was a character, and we'll just leave it at that.
Okay. I get it. Yeah.
Um, and then there's not much else on that line. It's just a big long line. Oh, and my great grandmother, my grandpa's uh grandma that took care of him, who was an orphan.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was born in Maine, right about
Okay.
here. Yeah, like a lot of ancestors were born in Maine. Um, and it's just not a fun spot. It's mostly just a lot of sadness.
I always thought Maine was beautiful, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
in
from everything
the
I've
astral
seen, it's a beautiful
locality.
place, but that's kind of like telling me like just don't go there.
Yeah,
you know.
exactly.
And then let's see. Oops, wrong one. I also have a lot of ancestors on my grandfather's paternal line who were born right here
Hmm.
in New York. And there's like a really unfortunate story with my grandpa. Like I said, his parents split. But his father was like the black sheep of the family, and they sold motorcycles.
Okay.
Um, but apparently he was like disowned, and like we just never knew why. And my grandpa didn't really feel like talking about it, which fair, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does tell me that something's going on here because that's a Saturn line on the descendant,
Hmm. Yeah.
which yeah, just indicates like controlling relationships or having to work really, really hard to get anywhere in life.
Exactly. Yeah.
it may not even
That's
pay off in the end. So,
exactly. Yeah.
then, oh, would you look at that? They also have that line going through Maine. So,
Yeah. I'd stay away from Maine if I were you.
yeah. Um, and then another thing that was also interesting but kind of sad is this is right where my maternal grandmother uh was born. Now she
Hmm.
was a wonderful woman and she was like a second mother to me. We all loved her. All my cousins will tell you the same thing that I say about her. That's how much
Hmm.
she was loved. But she had a really hard life. Went through all kinds of insane hardships throughout her life, all kinds of different forms of abuse.
Hmm. Oh,
To the point that when I heard all of it, I couldn't believe how wonderful of a woman she was.
well, I mean, if you look at it, I think it's a Chiron in there. So you know the
Mhm.
archetype of Chiron, the wounded healer. That's
Yep.
exactly what it's representing here.
Well, and funnily enough, my grandma was a nurse, you know.
Okay.
So yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah. So
It's amazing how ancestry is in astrology, and now looking at this, it just blows the mind.
yeah, yeah. So and I don't know. I could keep going, but I think I'd be beating a dead horse at this point. It's just like with every line, it's like I can find something. So
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So yeah. Anyways, that was just something I wanted to share, just so maybe other people might get more interested because you actually gave us some stuff with Europe.
Hmm.
Um and I mean
Could be going further back in time. You just don't know
well
how far back it goes.
what was funny is I had a positive line that basically went from Finland all the way straight down to Greece.
Ah, yeah, yeah.
And
I
on
remember.
my DNA results, like I don't have anybody from there, but the thing with autosomal DNA tests is it's
Hmm.
only good for stuff that's 8 generations ago. So if your
Hmm.
ancestors from 8 generations ago don't have any of that, it won't show up.
Yeah.
But, and this
Okay.
is a big but, like
Yes.
I've said, I've done extensive genealogical research and I've actually been fortunate enough to find nobility
Hmm.
on both sides of my family. And when that happens, it just explodes because they kept impeccable records.
Hmm.
And on my father's side of the family, like I do have some Byzantine emperors and other
Oh,
people from
really?
that part of Eastern Europe, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was like, I don't know, maybe there's something from deep deep ancestry going on there. So
So you're the next Byzantine Emperor Paleologos 48th or something.
yeah, maybe I don't know. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll just go over to Crane and show everybody what's what. So,
Yeah, exactly. Let's get us Istanbul back.
mhm. Yep. Oh my goodness. Anyways, yeah, so and then even uh with my youngest, she has a line going through Scandinavia and
Hmm.
we both actually my wife she has a greater connection to Scandinavia than I do because
Hmm.
her grandfather his grandparents actually directly immigrated to where we live right now from Norway.
Okay.
So that wasn't too surprising uh, for me.
Well, I mean, that area wasn't it known for Norwegian and Danish settlement or so, I think.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
like, if you look at the ancestry and stuff. But also, you said you're sort of like, yeah, like you said, on the Mayflower and stuff, so very purebred English. And the English
Mhm.
themselves have a lot of Scandinavian ancestry. So it could be from there too.
Well, that's the other thing too, is like I know what part of England the bulk of my English ancestors come from.
Okay.
Uh and yeah, it's right in the I don't know how much the listeners will know about English history, especially pre-Norman conquest.
Hmm.
But the part of England where a lot of them come from is right on the cusp of, where it's a question mark of is this Danelaw or is this part of Mercia?
Oh, okay. Okay.
So yeah, there was probably intermixing, and even to this day, most people in England don't move around too much.
Yeah.
So from a genetic perspective, it's still pretty close to what it's
Okay.
being.
That's just
the largest concentration of Norse ancestry is in
Mhm.
northern England. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
that's true. Okay,
yeah. Anyway, so that was a bit of a side note. So, um,
nice.
yeah, but yeah, you wanted to talk about a desert god from an
Ah,
article that
okay.
we read the other day. Yeah.
Well, well, I mean, I just wanted to point out that you discovered this, and I don't know if someone else, perhaps around the world, someone's discovered this, but for you, it was really amazing. And when you wrote that to me, that was just mind blowing.
Mhm.
So um, I'm just wow, amazed at what you can see through the planets. Sometimes it's just absolutely amazing. And yeah, I mean, if it weren't for some dedicated people in the past, we wouldn't necessarily have that knowledge who tried to work around a desert god and his minions, so to speak. Uh, well, and I was reading just what was it yesterday or so from Thomas Sheridan on his Substack about essentially the nature of Yahweh. That's we actually, if you just read the Bible, you can see that this God is not a god; he's a demon. It's just all
Mhm.
evil. He's always just jealous and he's always angry and all the kind of stuff. So I simply do not get why people worship that thing. And I mean, there are a lot of Christians or Jews that would disagree that Allah from Islam is the same as Yahweh from the Bible, but I just see a continuation of the same thing. And yeah, like Christians would like to point out obviously that's yeah, us Christians are not as angry as Muslims. Like, do you know your history? You know that even ISIS was a little bit mild in comparison to early Christians. So
Mhm.
early Christians were batshit crazy. I mean, even ISIS didn't. Yeah,
Well, yeah, for those who don't know, like what I didn't know was that when you look at a lot of classical statues and they all seem to be missing their noses,
yeah.
after I can't remember the name of the book, but it's like the Darkening Age of Europe or something
Uh,
to that effect.
something Nixie. Her name is Nixie. Yeah,
Yes, I'll put it in the show notes after I figure it out because I do have the book, but I have to go look it up.
yeah, me too.
Yeah, she said like they specifically removed the noses, but then they were also too dumb to fully dismantle everything.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I mean, like I said, there's a continuation with Islam. Actually, sort of like the Christians. Well, they were still radical at the time. Today, not as much, thankfully. But as things are moving, they're getting a bit crazier again, and we can never trust on their compassion and tolerance, just as we can't necessarily count on compassion and tolerance from the religion of peace. So yeah, we have a continuation because everyone who's been to Egypt and seen the pyramids knows that there's sort of like a big hole in one of the pyramids. There was I don't know, a sultan caliph or I don't know, something from down there, and he was sort of like saying, yeah, the pyramids are blasphemy, so we need to destroy them. And he pulled masses of workers to sort of like dismantle the pyramid. And you can see a little bit of structural damage, and they actually done tremendous damage. But because the thing is just so huge, he just after a while gave up and said, "Well, can't do anything about it. This thing is just too massive." Yeah, so
Yeah.
first of all, they don't have the expertise to do it. They're too stupid to do it, and yeah, they're trying to destroy everything that has beauty in it, and that is something very typical of this desert god. I mean, if you know the Bible and that what was the offering to Yahweh in the temple? It was burnt flesh.
Mhm.
Like you literally have to kill and burn something that was living, and that is the smell that is pleasing to him. Well, I mean, I like a barbecue too, but
Yeah. Yeah, but it's the specific wording,
yeah,
that's kind of like that's kind of creepy. But what's so weird is when you're a Christian, it's like you just kind of glaze over those parts. Like it's hard to explain. That's why I like you mentioned you don't understand why people follow them. It's for me it's simple. It's just they're bewitched. They're under a spell,
exactly, exactly, yeah,
because Any reasonable person who reads that and understands that these are all the same God. It's not like they're separate, they're not different, they're all the same. And it reads like this person's a psychopath, and then at the end
Mm,
starts love bombing,
yeah,
you know.
exactly.
And like when you look
And
at
it's
cycles of abuse and stuff, it's like that's what that is. Or if you look at the Ten Commandments and the very first one, he just straight up says, I am a jealous God, you know.
yeah, exactly.
Um, and what's funny is even as you're a Christian, like you kind of skip over the jealous part and you're just like, oh, like you're only supposed to worship him. But then when you really start thinking about it, it's like, why do you have to say you're jealous? Because that means you're insecure. That
Yeah,
means you're insecure. Okay.
exactly.
How can you be a god and be insecure?
Yeah, that is really crazy. Yeah, I mean, just the overall track record of how he speaks, what he wants, and I mean, the number one thing, if there are Christians who try to convert me, and sometimes aggressively, sometimes not so much, but and not just online, not the things you maybe seen online in real life as well. And yeah, they always ask me what kind of flaws I can find in the Bible, and then they answer it within a second. You can't find any. And I'm like, well, there's just one flaw in there, just one single flaw that cancels out any and everything else that you might think is true. That is the issue of slavery. So why the hell is there slavery even allowed in there? Yeah, and it's sort of
Because
like,
it
oh,
is.
but yeah, it's sort of, oh, it's just slavery, like just about how to treat them very well and stuff. Yeah, it's about how to treat Jewish slaves well, but all others, fair game. You can do anything you want. It's like this is absolutely horrible, and just with that God has discredited himself. I'm sorry.
Yep. Yep.
I mean,
I mean,
there's a sort of slavery that I would sort of like accept. That would be something like you've done something like really bad to a family, like killed a member or something like that. You have to serve them for like 5 years or something along those lines. Yeah.
for me, I would use the example of Abraham and how God like said, "Oh, you got to give me your firstborn son."
Oh,
So
yes.
and then he goes up and he's about to do it, and then God goes, "Oh no, don't wait, stop, stop." How about just the tip of his dick?
Yes.
And if you think about it, like a lot of psychopaths, a lot of controlling, manipulative people will use the big ask just to see if you'll do it. But then they're
Yeah.
also intelligent enough to know that it's not going to keep happening.
Hmm.
So they're like, okay, well, how about just this? Can you do
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
this? You know?
Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. Yahweh is a psychopath, a borderline, and a narcissist all rolled up into one.
Yep. Yep. So,
Yeah. And
anyways,
it's really funny. I watch a lot of YouTube videos, read a lot of books on the topic, and I'm sort of trying to piece together what the original intentions were, where it came from, and so on and so forth. And it's an absolute maze, so you can never be certain where it started, when it started, and why, and whatever. But I do have a working theory, actually. It's because we found the Egyptian people at one point being called the chosen people.
okay.
And then, well, by the god Set from
Mhm.
all. Yeah. So, and then there was the Hyksos invasion. There were people from Canaan that invaded Egypt and ruled it. And they were known to be, well, just read European news of what people from that place do here. Like with the loving very special graping, that kind of stuff. They
Oh, who
were known
bring
to be
cultural
absolute.
enrichment? Yeah.
Yeah. So they had that exact behavior thousands of years ago. The Egyptians eventually threw them out, and suddenly Set no longer called the Egyptian chosen, and most of the Set temples were actually dismantled or sort of like repurposed.
Hmm.
There still were some left, obviously, but his role within Egypt wasn't as big anymore. And suddenly, then you have small people that has been thrown out of Egypt that went back to Canaan. Well, now they call themselves the chosen people.
Hmm.
And there's this thing that sets, the Egyptian gods are always sort of like depicted as animal human hybrids.
Hmm.
Yeah. And no one's in archaeology is sure what Set is supposed to be, but it's actually quite clear if you don't listen to these archaeologists, because sometimes they can be full of themselves. And it's supposed to be a donkey.
Yeah.
And funny enough, the temple in Jerusalem has been raided and ransacked quite a few times, and what they reported was in the Holy of Holies, where supposedly you die when you see it. Well, the one who ransacked it, they didn't die. They saw a golden donkey head statue.
Hmm.
So they were praying to a golden donkey head. And yeah, well, early Christians were being mocked by the Romans as praying to a donkey on a cross. So there's always this connection with the donkey, with the perhaps god Set around there.
Hmm.
Yes, and Set is not a very nice deity. Let's put it at that.
Yeah. That's interesting. I didn't know about that. Okay. Wow. Huh.
Yeah.
Okay. This is,
Yeah, I mean, just thinking about it, coming back to the sacrificing of the tip of your nicest part. I mean, um, just thinking, just purely thinking about that, just cutting around those parts, that just sounds psycho. I mean, just objectively.
yeah.
And I mean,
Well, that's what's worse though, is because it's so common in America, you can't have that conversation because they don't get it
yeah,
like at all. Um, and even if you just explain what you're doing and why, like what those parts actually do, like they just, you know, I
I mean, I had
well,
no choice. I was born, and 15 minutes later, they chopped off half my wiener.
yeah, and when you try to explain to people like it's something that's like deeply emotional and they
Mm,
just think that's just what's done. And it's like if you start explaining, like, if you're circumcised in Europe, it's probably because you're Jewish. It's not common. Like they don't make the connection. Or
yeah,
they try to make all the cups of like, oh, well, you can just wash yourself. It's so easier to wash yourself, as if soap and water doesn't exist, you know?
yeah, exactly.
Like, what did our ancestors do hundreds and hundreds of years ago? Like, they don't even understand the history of like who brought circumcision to America when it started, because it wasn't a practice when the country was first founded
Yeah.
at all. So it's just like you guys are so ignorant. But then they, have all these copes like, oh, well, they won't remember it, so therefore it's okay. And
Hmm.
what hurts, what stings the most is it's always mothers saying that. And it's
Yeah.
like the biggest cope because they know deep down that they let their son down right out of the gate,
Yeah.
right out of the gate,
Exactly.
and it's just, that's the only way I think they can come to terms with it, and it's just,
Or or perhaps they watch too many porn videos and say, "Ah, that's a nice one." Who
who's to
knows?
say, who's to say?
Yeah.
But yeah, well, because it was kind of weird too. Like, this is how weird it gets is when my wife was first pregnant with the twins and we didn't know, if it was going to be boys or girls.
Hmm.
Like, my mother-in-law straight up asked her, if it's a boy, are you going to get him circumcised?
Okay.
It's just like, how is that like the first like thing you even ask? First of all, that's weird.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, and then even when my wife was like, well, no, that part doesn't need to come off. There's no medical reason for that to happen.
Yeah.
So if they want to do that, they're more than welcome to do that when they're 18, you know.
Exactly.
And even then, like my
They
mother-in-law
want
tried
to
to
be
give
a
a
part of that
pushback,
covenant. Yeah.
and it's just like, how is this any of your business? Why is this even a conversation?
Yes, exactly. Well, and that's the thing. Yeah, and obviously the Muslims they carried it forth. They um, what do they call it? There's these Noahide laws. Yes. So
Mm,
um, and the Christians are not necessarily following the Noahide laws anymore that much. In America, much more than say Europe, like with Catholics or something like that. That's why Catholics have always been hated by the Protestants so very much because they have become more folkish in that sense that they adapted to Europe. And I mean, looking at Catholics today, like in Africa or something like that, or like in Mexico where they have Santa Muerte and
mm,
all the like. Yeah, so they always adapt to the local customs and traditions and sort of like just give a an overlay, um, perhaps perhaps some boy-loving priests in the mix, but yeah, yeah, yeah. Actually, in the newest report, what I actually saw is that Protestants in Germany are the ones actually committing the most crimes against children in that regards. It's
mm.
not the Catholics.
No, yeah,
Uh,
the Catholics just have that reputation because of what was it, the big paper that came out like in the early 2000s about all the sexual abuse that the church was covering up.
yeah,
But it's all of them.
yeah.
It's all of them, you know. So yeah,
uh, and that's the thing. Like this kind of abuse amongst the Islamic nations is off the scale, is absolutely crazy. I mean, read a statistic the other day. It was something like that 80 to 90% of Pakistani children um, sort of like get that kind of abuse by mostly brothers, fathers, or just some townspeople. It's like there's nothing there's nothing good that can grow out of it. And I mean, this is um this is sort of like just an indication, and it's not so um like a main thesis or what can you say? But it's sort of like these kind of religions, this Abrahamism that comes from this desert gods, this actual evil gods, what you can see. He only breeds evil. Everything that comes from him is always just awful.
yeah,
And yeah, I mean, if anything good comes from out of these places, because no doubt a lot of good people do come from these places. Yeah. Uh, um, what I saw is that they are good in spite of their religion.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because it's like even when you look at just Christianity, for example, like all the good philosophy and stuff that comes from Christianity ultimately comes from, the big three Greek philosophers,
Mm,
Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, who were all pagan.
yeah.
They even
Exactly.
love Thomas of Aquinas, but he was ultimately just a student of Aristotle, you
Yeah.
know. Uh, so they're just standing on the shoulders of pagan philosophers. As much as they
Definitely.
want to call them crypto Christians or act like, they weren't
Yeah.
pagans, it's like,
They
shut
couldn't
up,
have been
dude.
crypto Christians because there was no Christ.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's the crazy stuff. And then yeah, like even with the Catholics, not so much American Catholics. Uh it's
The
American
Irish, yes.
Catholics are a different branch. It's mostly with like European Catholics.
Mhm.
Is yeah, they still maintain that kind of syncretic element of paganism where yeah, they put a lot of saints on top of
Yeah.
certain things, but you can still tell that it's ultimately European in origin,
Hmm.
and I don't know, they still kind of have that love for family, of hearth, of their own soil, even
Exactly. Yeah.
if they still have kind of the weird backwardness and confusion of like the holy name, like there's weirdness going on,
Yeah. Definitely.
whereas yeah, with Americans, Israel's our greatest ally.
Yeah. The one that drags you into endless wars. Great.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. And well, I mean, reading through all these kind of things, I'm still baffled that my own mother is. I mean, I'm presenting arguments to her, but literally when she's losing the argument, she just says, "Now we're gonna shut up." It's like, okay, that is really funny. Yeah, I'm trying to pull her out of that because I mean, more than one occasion, her Christ has made her call me an enemy of her. It's like, come on, I'm your own son. I'm not your enemy.
Mhm.
Yeah. Um, Warned me not to blaspheme, and it's like, I'm not in your religion. I don't care about that. It doesn't apply to me. Yeah,
Mhm.
stuff like that. It's really nuts. And yeah, I see a lot of religious people around here in Europe, not very much European people, but from more the Middle East. And like I said, if there's good people around, they're mostly good in spite of their religion. And it's mostly the irreligious people, actually, where you see that they do not have certain frustrations about them. You can see that the religious people are really frustrated to the point that you walk past them and you can see that hatred, a sort of jealous hatred, is actually pointed at you.
Mhm.
Sort of like I in my free time, I don't wear all this type of like dark clothes and stuff. Is actually quite um, a summery vibe. Well, at least now as it is summer. Yeah, and I look actually quite happy and approachable and everything. So, um, and it could be that I walk around with a beer. I know in America that's a little bit of an issue outside, but it's um, it's Germany. It's fine here. So, and they're actually jealous. I can see that they're jealous in their eyes that I'm having fun and they are not allowed to have fun.
Mhm.
And therefore, they want me to stop having fun or want me to die. And I mean, I know these people intimately because I grew up with them.
Mhm.
I mean, I was in the 90s already in a classroom, which would have been unthinkable of at that time, but is now sort of becoming more and more the norm. Where it was like out of 25 kids, there were like just five uh, five Europeans, and the rest were from somewhere else.
Ooh.
And yeah, so I didn't have any problem in that sense that I was sort of like the outsider or anything. Um, but what I noticed is that they just have contempt for us because they know their civilizations have failed while ours has not.
Mhm.
And they want to tear us down. And, their ways of speaking sometimes are full of hatred that would make Yahweh blush. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's the worst thing is a lot of people are sort of like trying to defend the women in these faiths, sort of like, oh, they're being oppressed. They're the worst ones. They're the worst
Mhm.
of them all.
Mhm.
You know, when it comes to female circumcision, yeah, who are the ones who are doing it? It's the mothers. It's
Oof.
not the fathers. The fathers are not really interested.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you read all these stories, yeah, that's what you read there.
Yeah. I didn't know that stuff. So yeah, that's crazy. That's
Yeah.
wild. Well, because I used to have the same mindset of like, oh, they're oppressed. Oh, there's this. Because like I've known a couple women who are of European descent who happened to marry a Saudi, and like
Mhm.
they would tell me stories, and I was just like, oh my God, like that's crazy. But yeah, I didn't know that, it's the women who are the craziest. So, which is
Yeah.
just, I don't know, it's hard for me to wrap my head around, you know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, we always
it's
have
just
this
difficult for me to figure out.
yeah, we always have this picture in our head that women are like sort of innocent, but the last few years have taught us they're anything but,
Yeah, yeah, huh.
especially since the emergence of Tinder.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I think that'll probably about do it for that subject. So again, we'll probably be beating a dead horse if we keep talking about it. Um, anyways, did you want to have any parting words or anything you wanted to say just as a last note?
Well, perhaps I'm always going through sort of like magical phases. Some would say initiations, although I think that's a little bit pompous to say. Um, yeah, and I'm just currently working on an astrological magical system. I think I mentioned it earlier in the year with Fiona. That's sort of like planetary magic. The thing is, I'm sort of like throwing that out of the window right now because I found something better, and it is talismanic magic. And I'm want to speak in yeah a few short weeks about talisman magic and how it can benefit us, and what I think is perhaps the most powerful magic of them all. So yeah, that's something to look forward to.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that'll about do it for today. It was a pleasure talking with you, Dan, and yeah, we'll see you all next time.